From cops on beaches in Australia to going lockdown-free in Sweden, how nations around the world dealt with COVID. Police helicopters were this week deployed to order sunbathers on beaches to go home as Australia struggles to contain COVID's surging Delta variant. Almost a third of the country's 25 million residents are now under the strictest instructions to stay at home in a bid to halt its spread. A nation whose policy of closing its borders to the world was once held up as a paragon of good practice as the pandemic took hold, Australia is now facing a desperate race to vaccinate its citizens, with only a fifth fully jabbed. Meanwhile, countries such as Sweden, which has never entered full lockdown restrictions, is now close to having zero COVID deaths, and officials there believe the worst is behind them. Scientists were initially skeptical freedom-loving Brits would obey strict rules we've come to accept. In June, a survey found 71% of English adults supported a 4-week delay in lifting lockdown. Tough lockdown with a ban on all public gatherings, enforced by 100,000 police. President Emmanuel Macron said the country was effectively at war. Proof of vaccination or immunity is now required to eat indoors at restaurants, or visit museums and sports stadiums. Its lockdown measures included banning any outdoor movement except to buy food and medicine, and all non-essential workers were ordered to stay at home. Now, the impressive take-up of the vaccine across the country, which has been superior to that in Italy and France, has seen the impact of the coronavirus significantly easing. Then President Donald Trump downplayed the true danger in the early days and sidelined experts in the USA credit, Reuters. Then President Donald Trump downplayed the true danger in the early days and sidelined experts. State lockdowns in the first stages of the pandemic included stay-at-home orders, the banning of large gatherings, and mandatory use of masks. Now, the U.S. suffered 614,000 deaths, the most of any country. There is still high levels of vaccine hesitancy in parts of the country. Now, a leading epidemiologist said in June Brazil could have saved 400,000 lives if it had applied stricter social distancing rules and launched a vaccination program earlier. Avoided full lockdown, instead relying on voluntary measures in a bid for herd immunity. Now, approaching close to zero daily COVID deaths. While its death rate is much higher than its Nordic neighbors, it has fewer relative fatalities than many large European nations. Like the UK, it faces a reckoning over care home deaths during the initial outbreak. Imposed a strict lockdown including at schools and building sites after it became the first European nation to be hard hit by the virus. Now, death rate worse than other large European nations. Higher full vaccine rates than France or Germany. Proof of vaccination or immunity required for eating at restaurants and entry to pools, theaters, museums and cinemas. Strict fines were levied on those who broke lockdown rules. Now, extra police deployed to Holiday Island hotspots after a worrying spread of the Delta variant. Emergency measures include an alcohol ban at restaurants and karaoke bars and shortened opening hours. The Delta variant, which originated in India, is now on the way, but a low jab uptake leaves it susceptible. Deaths per 1 million population, 36. Now, its slow vaccine rollout has seen fresh lockdowns implemented as the Delta variant spreads. Soldiers are patrolling Sydney, now in its 6th week of strict lockdown, to enforce stay-at-home rules.